Hello, everyone. Ambassador Terry with a very interesting subject today and an incredible co-host, not to mention a whole lineup of amazing voices, the top voices in leadership on trust. Jenny, I'm so excited.
Me too, Terry. This is amazing and such an important topic for the world today.
It is. This year, Davos started the theme of trust, and it's been played around the world since then. We're going to bring in our first guest, who is just an amazing person. I just love her to death, Maria Papakasta. Maria?
Hello. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Ambassador Terry.
I'm so glad that you were able to make this.
Good to see you again.
I really am. So we're talking about trust, and trust is a big deal in all of my guests' lives and ours as well. And I'd like you to just take a few minutes and tell us about what trust means to you and your clients.
Well, my area of work is around leadership, presence, and influence. And you can't have either of these beautiful things without having trust. It's the foundation. But since I'm the first speaker today, I thought I'll start with 3 quotes just to set the scene and hopefully, prepare the rest of the speakers. So I'll take my notes because I have the memory of a goldfish. So I've broken down trust into 3 levels. So level number 1 is society. And Ernest Hemingway said, the best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust them. And I couldn't agree more, but not with my money or my health.
There's some boundaries, right?
There are some boundaries. Number 2 is a business environment or a workplace environment, if you'd like. So for this one, I've chosen Abraham Lincoln. And he said, the people, when rightly and fully trusted, will return the trust. And then I will add, but of course, we need the right foundations, the right environment, the right culture, and the right support system to enable our people to take ownership and accountabilities and to show how we trust them and how they trust us, or however you want to name it. And the last quote is down at the personal level, and it's by Lao Tzu. He said, he who does not trust enough will not be trusted.
Oh, nice. Deep. You got that deep. Yeah.
So
start with yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's well, trust takes a long time to be established. And at the personal level, at least, the last quote, our fears and our biases and our past experiences, they always get in the way. And that's something that we first have to deal on our own with ourselves, to learn to trust ourselves and to learn to trust others. And I think in a nutshell, that's exactly what trust means to me. And Jenny, the word I used once when you and Linda asked me, give me a word on trust, I said honor.
Yes. Beautiful. I want to know, Maria, you do such an amazing work inspiring people to trust their own voices and to use their own voices, and also to trust that that voice will be heard, that it's not a competitive space and that there's room for all of us at the table. So I'm so curious to know, how do you inspire that bravery, inspire them to use their voices and claim that space and trust that is their space and no one else's space that they're taking from them, that it's actually their own. Please tell me how you go about.
We are all very unique, right? But first of all, we have to have something to say. Otherwise, there's no reason to just say things for the sake of it. So for people who have something to say and that they want to share their ideas, their stories, whatever it is, there's always space and there's always need in this world. What most of us lack, especially at the beginning, is confidence. We're not confident enough. We feel that we might say something that, people will reject, and this will hurt our feelings. But to get to the point when we have something important to say, then we just have to do the work. It's about consistency, and it's about writing down, what do I have to do in order for my idea or for my story to be heard? And then you start doing the easy stuff. And as you do the easy stuff, you expand your comfort zone and you start doing the more difficult stuff. And the more you expand that comfort zone, the more difficult things you do, and the more you grow and you evolve. And at the end of the day, you end up on a big stage in front of thousands of people giving a keynote, which for many people is they'd rather die than present on a stage. It doesn't happen overnight, that confidence. You have to build it step by step. And at least for me, it helps to consider it as it's a job that I have to do. It's an item. It's a part of my job. So whatever item I have to build my skills, I'll start slowly and I'll take the deep dive and see how it goes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm also the timer. I'm a great host, but I'm also the timer. Maria, thank you so much for being able to get on here quickly with us. Blessings to you on your travels today. And thank you again for coming.
Thank you both. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. My next guest is one of those people that you become instant friends with. And then after a couple of minutes, very good friends. And she is an amazing person in her own right. And in her line of work, which we're going to hear about right now, my dear friend, Nicole Heinemann. Nicole, welcome.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Jenny. Wonderful to be here. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is about trust, my dear. So let's hear what your thoughts are.
Okay. So, yeah, trust is such a broad theme and so much to say. So the first thing where it takes me is that for me, trust is directly related to authenticity, to authentic leadership. And I want to share a story. Many years ago, I attended a course which was given by Dr. Stephen Karpman, the founder, the inventor, the intellectual father of the drama triangle, which many people know. And we were like 30 strangers in a room. And he started the course with just start walking around the room and look in people's eyes and decide if you trust this person or not. So really, upon arrival, basically without an introduction, you don't know anyone. And it was a very interesting experience, because you have this, you do get the information, I trust or I don't trust. And so it means that through our intuition system and accessing our deeper wisdom, we connect to the essence and the energy of a person, and consciously or unconsciously decide whether we trust or don't trust. And this brings me back to authenticity, because authenticity for me is continuously evolving and setting more and more of that essence free. So for me, authenticity is a process of integration, and the more integrated we become, the more free we become, the more time we spend in our essence. And that is where people trust or don't trust. So that's one element that I wanted to bring in.
And we get to trust our gut, right?
And we get to trust.
And we get to trust our gut,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of an exercise that I often do with clients who tend to blame themselves for past decisions. And I ask them to go back themselves
Yeah.
and look them in the eye.
Yeah.
And to see them, look themselves in the eyes and remember that they made the best decisions based on the understanding and the knowledge that they had back then. So powerful that you bring up the essence.
I think we have.
Yes, very good. Go ahead, Nicole.
Time is up?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think to build on what Jenny was saying, we are such a complex magical wonder system. We have the gut, we have the heart through which we receive a lot of information, which is full of neurons. We assess, we have this access to our deeper wisdom and our intuition system. So most of the time we know, and when we get betrayed or trust gets broken, we had all the signals, but we didn't want to see them, or we found excuses why we would continue with a relationship or with an employee or what. So I think it's a very, very beautiful, complex system that we have and that we have to learn to listen to. Yeah.
Delightful.
And then,
Delightful.
and then there's a lot to say about going to the organizational, the society level. I don't know if you want to go there in the short time we have, but
I do, just not today. Sounds like another live, Nicole.
good, we can do that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I love you to death. I thank you so much for coming.
Very well.
I got to tell you, you did some really fabulous reporting from Davos earlier this year. Congratulations on that trip for you and your partner, Marina. And thank you so much for stopping in with us.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and I'm so happy you two are taking up this important theme, and there's so much to say. So I'm curious to watch the rest of the show when I can. Yeah, because I have to.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Nicole.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, well, we're still in Eastern Europe, ladies and gentlemen. And our next guest is also from Eastern Europe, another Greek person, international speaker, Professor Theophanis Vargougelis. And welcome. We just met the other day, and I am really glad I met you. Welcome.
I'm so glad I met you. You're on a topic today that's very close to my heart. Although I'm a marketing specialist, but I switched more to trust the latter years of my activities because marketing is criticized a lot of its activities, whether being trustful or not. And I think that trust is also a concept that's very misunderstood. It's like a luxury aspect in life. Well, we do things, if we can trust, even better. In reality, our whole societal system sits on trust. Everything, every day we do has to do with trust. Opening the door and getting into the elevator has to do with trust. That elevator will take us to the last floor without a problem and won't be an accident. An appointment we have with the doctor will be there. And he will do the operation. And we don't even know these people. We haven't heard of them. So trust is where our society sits on. And it's the most basic thing. And in that sense, it's very much an individual thing, like I trust you, Jenny, and I trust you, Ambassador Terry. Or it's a very structural thing. I trust the system of society, I trust the mechanisms of society, etc. And in that sense, trust has boundaries. There are limits to where I trust each of these things, right? So it's not endless, it's boundaries. Building trust has to clarify what these boundaries are, and then build the trust around them and build mechanisms like the law, like agreements, like understanding mutual, like emotions that keep these lines alive and straight. Now, our topic today is leadership. So I'm doing this intro to get to the leadership part. The leadership has to do with a lot of things that, having a vision, having mission, being able to share, being honest, being supportive, all these things. But I think the trust, which is the element that bonds people that don't know each other. When you look at Martin Luther King, I mean, he had an audience that would trust him without even being able to say a word to him, right? This blind faith in someone, this trust, is built primarily mutually, in the sense that when a leader asks its audience, its followers, the people it addresses, to follow him, he must assume and she must assume equal risk. It's not the risk that I take when I ask you to do something should be equal, if not bigger, than the risk you take by doing that thing. I should be vulnerable not only to you, but equally vulnerable to our cause and our objective. It should be a high-risk operation for me before it is a high-risk operation for you. And in that sense, trust bonding is very existential, because we get on a journey of an unknown result, but with equal risk. That is the basis of faith in a leader. If that is there, then I'm listening to hear what he says and see if I like it. That's the second story. See how he acts and see if I like it. That's the third story. But the first story that starts the leadership path is a leader that sits and is willing to take equal risk, if not more, with all the people he addresses.
Thank you, Theophanis. So many of my clients are very task-oriented, and they find the concept of trust so abstract. And I love that you bring it in and make sense of things. How about you, Terry?
Yeah, you hit on something I thought was really good. If you're starting with yourself and stuff, I often say, I trust you until you show me otherwise, right? And that gives everybody an equal opportunity to start over, okay? And it's not easy, it takes a lifetime to build the trust and seconds to lose it, and rebuild it. It takes even longer sometimes. But that doesn't mean you can't start over. For you that are out there that have had some trust issues, you can start over right now. You had something else, Theophanis?
I just wanted to, I think you're very right when you say I trust someone immediately. I trust someone immediately when I see them. It's what we say, first of all, innocent until proven guilty. I mean, I start with that premise, right? That I can trust you until otherwise. And that's the risk you're taking before the other person is taking. Regarding what you said, Jenny, that's a very interesting point. The fact that as you said, they're more interested in processes and approaches than trust itself. And right. And I think this is what I think you said at the beginning, that they think trust is a luxury, when in fact, every breath you take, every step you take, it's based on trust. If they realize that, it's not whether they trust, it's whether they can increase the trust level they have with everybody, because there is always a trust level. The fact that I hire someone, even if I have some doubts, it means I have some trust too. Okay? Yeah. So the reality is strengthening and augmenting the trust that they have at that level and finding the key points for that.
Lovely, my friend. Again, nice to meet you. So and I look forward to speaking to you again in the future. And bye for now. Thank you again. Now I'm going to New York to my really good close friend and colleague. I can't say enough about this guy. He's one of those people that is amazing to listen to in the first place. And when you ask him, can you come on to do something? He's there, and there you are, Todd Churches. Thanks for coming, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Terry. Great to see you, Jenny. Such a great lineup of speakers, and everyone's been my wheels are turning. There's been so much said already, and so much that can be said on trust, and it's fresh in my mind because I teach leadership at both NYU and Columbia, And we were just discussing this in my NYU class the other night. So, but I have a confession to make about why my wife doesn't trust me anymore. So I want to reveal it here publicly. So when we first got married, we were having dinner, and a cockroach went running across in front of the TV, and my wife screamed, and I ran and I killed it, and I was her hero. But then another cockroach went running by, and it turned out I hadn't killed it. I lied about it because I just wanted to have dinner. It was the same one. So I had to make a choice in that moment. Do I make her think we're infested with roaches in our brand new apartment? We just got married at the time. Or do I confess that I lied about it just so I could eat dinner while it was still warm? So my wife does not, even to this day, it's 20 years later, she does not trust me when it comes to bugs. She trusts me about everything else, but in the bug category, if I say I killed a bug, she said, "Are you lying to me, or are you telling me the truth this time?" So one of the lessons there is when we lie to someone, we plant the seed of doubt in their mind. And it could be tiny, like the bug story. And just to give a little plug, that story that I just told is called The Cockroach Story, which is in my book, Visual Leadership. If people want to read the full story, a little plug there. But the key, the serious message is, as a leader, when you lie to people, when you mislead them, when you withhold information, they doubt you. They never trust you again. It's and I looked up just for curiosity. I love etymology, which is different from entomology, the study of bugs. Not to go back to bugs, but etymology, the study of word origins. And trust has to do with truth. It's a firm belief in the reliability of something or someone, right? So can you rely on someone? Can you believe them? Do you have confidence in them? And the word confidence has the same root as fidelity, right? So fidelity is about honesty and integrity and truthfulness, right? So if you want to be trusted, you need to be trustworthy. And as soon as you lie to people or make stuff up, you've lost their trust. So hopefully that story will resonate with people, and you'll remember that if you don't know, say I don't know. If you can't tell someone, say I can't tell you right now, right? But be straightforward and be truthful, because as soon as you don't do that, that you've lost their trust forever.
Absolutely. I think you hit on something with the cockroach. Often us guys say that women have elephant memories. And, that's happened in my life, or the previous marriage and my current marriage. Something early on happened, innocently or otherwise. And years later, all of a sudden, there's a discussion and a discourse between the two. Mm-hmm. You did this to me back at when, and you go, how do you remember that stuff, let alone now bring it to the fore out of nowhere? It's very funny.
Funny. Well, this Jenny? Is turning into a confessional, but it's true. Again, this is we're talking about leadership, and same thing. If a leader lies to you early on, it could be a few years later, but you have that seed of doubt planted, and you question whether or not you believe them or not. They did a survey of NFL players a number of years ago and asked players how much they trusted their coaches, and the main determining factor of whether or not a player trusted their coach was if the player felt that their coach trusted them, right? If they had confidence in them, if they believed them, if they treated them like adults, and if they said something, they took their word for it without proof, then they trusted the coach, right? So it was reciprocated. So I think that's another thing too. If you want to be trusted, you need to trust other people. And Maria and Nicole and Theophanis all were great and kind of alluded to that. Is it's a belief, right? In something or someone, and if you lose it, it's gone. So I just want to mention there's a model in my book called The Hierarchy of Followership. How likely are people to follow your lead? And since I'm a visual guy, I will show the visual model, right? It goes from like, admire, respect, and trust. So it's nice if people like you. It's great if they admire you. It's important that they respect you, but it's most important that they trust you. So I often pose the question, can you like someone you don't trust? And can you trust someone you don't like? So I just want to plant that. I write about that in one of the chapters of my book, but I just want to throw that out there, because a lot of times leaders try so hard to be liked that they could lose the trust of people because they don't and they lose the respect of people because they're trying to be a people pleaser as opposed to being like the decisive person or the one who listens to other people. So listening relates to trust. So we can talk for hours, but there's just so many different angles to approach this topic. So I love it. I love that you chose trust to talk about today.
Thank you. Jenny, got any comments? I'm going to
Well,
honor his need to leave.
So many thoughts coming in, but we absolutely trust in the consistency of a character. So if you lied once, then likely you will lie again. With this being said, I think that we can be authentic and still choose the level of transparency, the level of the information that we share with people. I think this is a very common misconception that we mix the two, which touches on what you just shared. Thank you, Todd. And you're so brilliant at getting us all on the same page. And that makes us feel so safe. And that makes us trust you. That we see what you say. Brilliant.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah, man. I love you, man. Thank you for coming. I'm going to honor that you need to go.
Yes.
Like the first guests. And so be well on your travels today. And again, thank you very much.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Okay, bye. All right. Well, we're bouncing around Europe. If you haven't figured that out yet, we're going back to Switzerland. This gentleman and I met a few months ago. It's one of those click at first sight. We speak each other's language. He's big on trust, and I love his regular videos. Dr. Thomas Julie. Welcome, Thomas. I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and I've been impressed by the other speakers. Lots of content, lots of new inspirations. And at the beginning, you talked about the World Economic Forum Davos this year, and trust was one of the main topics among, of course, everyone was talking about AI, and they tried to bring in trust and AI. What I observed, though, was people talked about mostly technology, and they never really made the connection between technology and us humans. And it's kind of interesting because, like, if you're really interested in innovation, I mean, the question is, what do you need? It's not so much technology, but it's like connection and trust is kind of like the bedrock of innovation, because like you need to foster authenticity, transparency, mutual respect in your workforce, in your team, because else there is no innovation. With respect to innovation, I say, well, there is product innovation, there is process innovation, but products and processes do not innovate, people do. So let's talk about the human aspects. So when we talk about trust and innovation, there is a direct connection, especially in this hyper-connected world. Everyone talks about, online interaction, etc., but there is no alternative to face-to-face interaction, even though I'm very happy that we have this channel, but let's face it, there is nothing better than face-to-face communication. So talking about trust, it's kind of like the spark for innovation. Without it, forget it. It's the one thing. Now, the question, some people ask, okay, so that's on a very hyper level. So what we do in my company, Human Business Labs, it's a project incubator. So what we do is that we provide a space for teams where they can turn their ideas, their challenges, whatever they have with respect to transformation, innovation, into concrete implementable projects very fast. That is like within 2 days to 6 weeks. And during this incubation period, they can experience what trust, what a human environment is all about, and what difference it can make. They experience, it's not just technology, it's not just a product, it's actually what is it that motivates me personally, what motivates the team, and how can we bring these 3 dimensions, the product or the business, the individual, and the team, how can we bring this together? And this is like what we do in the project incubator. It's not about teaching trust, it's about experiencing trust, and thus make a big difference. Small, but it's working.
I love that. Concrete experiences, that's how we learn.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So, Thomas, I wonder, in this era of AI, how do business leaders make sure that their companies remain human? How does that relate to trust?
Well, they have to ask a very simple question. why are we in business? Is it for AI? Is it for tech? Is it for shareholders? They say, yeah, for our customers. Okay, but the purpose of a modern, innovative company is not so much we just generate value for our customers, because I said, like, who's actually innovating? It's the people. So I think a modern company, especially interested in AI, has to ask the question, how do we generate value for and by people? And that includes the customer and the employees, but not as resources. We are not resources. We are beings. So get rid of HR as human resources and bring in human recognition. There's HR again. And start small. If you don't have no clue, start small, do a pilot, do a project, and go from there, and allow change to grow from within.
Great advice.
Great advice. And I just lost my thought. So much for live. I can't cut that one out, right?
Yes.
I love
that's
it.
the
So
beauty, but that makes us trust you even more, Terry. That's authenticity as we're speaking.
Well, it's all about trust and acknowledging your feelings. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Any final comments, my friend?
Well, like I said, like if people want to find out more about how we're building a trust in businesses, just Google Human Business Labs. Come with us, and let's change business. There is one thing what people tell us, like what they always have to pay, though. And there is no free lunch, of course not. When you work with us, when you work with human business, the price you have to pay, it's fun. There is joy, because joy is one of our drivers. So yes, we're making a difference. We're compassionate. We are creative. We embrace empathy. We ignite innovation, and we are out there to make a difference, one project at a time. We don't say we revolutionize your business. No, just start small. Don't overwhelm people. Give them the space. Give them a playground to experience the human experience, to experience us as beings, not as resources. Basically, it's about rediscovering our human core, and thus be innovative and shape our future.
I love that. Absolutely. And that brings us to core values and so much more to consider and talk about in another conversation, right?
Absolutely. Oh, definitely in another conversation. That one is a great one just by itself. Dr. Thomas Julie, my new friend, thank you so much for dropping in. I knew it was going to be a great input from you. Thank you again, my dear friend.
Thank you.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, well, we're just having the best time all over Europe. Now we're going to head to the Emerald Isle, and a new friend that has just came into my life with some great interviews, really enjoying her. And she talks about trust in a unique way around what? Retail. Louise,
hi everyone.
Welcome, my dear friend.
How are you all keeping?
Good.
Great. Glad you could make it. Thank you very much for doing this today. And we're getting some unique pulls on trust, and your teaching within the Louise Lally Training Academy has a lot to do with trust and building trust, both with employee to employee, business to customer, etc. And so I think your take on it will be a great addition today. So please hop right in and let's have your thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to say the speakers are amazing. I'm a visual learner. So I loved that triangle diagram with the like and the respect. I just thought that was fantastic. So loved that. I'm going to actually share a stat with you guys. So this is something that I was doing a training session, and I'm just going to share this with everyone today. 86% on a recent PwC survey, which would be they do a lot of consulting across the globe, so that 86% of executives say they highly trust their employees, but only 60% of employees feel highly trusted. So that, and there was quite an extensive survey that they carried out. And I suppose just to give a bit of an insight, I work a lot with retail teams. I work with very diverse different personalities, from a shop floor to a boardroom. And obviously, you know, from an internal customer perspective is our employees. So what I say to retailers when I'm working with them, how are you treating that internal customer? Are you treating them as well as the customer that comes in the front door? And if the answer to that question, and there's a pause and there's a reflection, I leave time to really think about it. And if they say to me, I didn't think about that, Louise, I would say, well, that is impacting that customer walking in the front door of your store. Because if we don't look after the people inside in the business, then they won't look after the people coming into the business. And I think very often I see with organizations where they put so much money and training into these customer programs, you know, they've all these metrics and KPI tools, and then we're forgetting actually about the people that are actually there to deliver it. Are they supported by their line manager? What does trust look like between the team? I recently done a workshop around feedback. But are you going to take feedback if you don't trust the person giving you the feedback? Are you going to be open and honest and receive that in the right way? So I think very often I find trust is taken for granted, personally, I think, until it's lost. When it's lost in a relationship, that's when we really get that, you know, moment of clarity where we're like, oh my God, it's so important. It's actually so important that we have trust. And I found through the years that I have taken trust for granted with teams, with work colleagues. And it wasn't until there was a fragment in that relationship and the trust went that I really realized how actually important it is for the fiber of our relationship. And once it's gone, it's very hard to get it back. So it's how do you harness it? How do you cultivate it within a team? Great communication and having people understand where you're coming from. That requires, you know, a level of vulnerability. And when we talk about trust, I think about vulnerability because you have to have, I think personally, a sense of vulnerability when it comes to trust and building those emotional relationships with people that sometimes we don't think about when we think of the corporate world. And we don't realize that there is emotions coming into those rooms and how are we actually facilitating them and supporting them in the right way.
I love that, Louise. And I find that you are so compassionate with the management team, making sure that they get the proper training to be successful, right? So what, as you're sitting there, like, what is the most common misconception about trust or being trusting?
Yeah, I think for some people, trust means different things, and there's different levels of trust as well. And I think for some people, you know, if we look at personalities, for example, some people are more trusting than others. Okay, as individuals, some of us trust more easily than others. And I think sometimes, and I've noticed this with managers, they might go in or they might get a role in a new company, and they go in as a manager and they're really excited to start that new role in the business. And some people really buy into them straight away. They trust them. You know, they have, maybe there's similarities in their personality. Maybe they warm up to them really easily. And then there's certain people that maybe take a little bit longer to trust, and that's okay, Jenny. But I think sometimes we don't have an understanding of, you know, being patient with people when it comes to trust, taking our time to get them to trust us and not feeling disheartened if they don't trust as quickly as what we do. So I think there's an expectation around that as well. And I see that a lot with maybe people that are in a new manager role. Maybe they've come from a team where they've been there for a really long time, and now they're kind of looking for that same, trust element when they move into either a different department or a different organization, and it can really knock their confidence if they don't have that straight away. But we have to realize, for people to come to the table with ideas, for people to kind of to talk up in a meeting, they really have to trust the person. They have to feel safe. And I think there's a safety piece around the trust as well that maybe we don't talk about enough. We see it as brand values in organizations, trust your team, but what does that mean? Like, how is it tangible? How do we have a conversation around that behavior in the workplace? What does it look like for you in your role? It might be different from what it looks like for me in mine. So I think more of those conversations need to happen, Jenny, in order for us to kind of normalize it, as opposed to what I see a lot of the time is it only really comes up in conversations when there's a conflict. So when there's mediation.
Yes, you got it. You got it right on the mark. I knew you were going to be a lot of fun. Louise, Lally, thank you so much from the Emerald Isle. I'm the timekeeper, so we get to keep moving on. I just love you. Thank you very much for doing this today. I'm going to skip up to Edinburgh and have a chat with my longtime friend and fellow international speaker. And here he comes now. Thanks, Louise. Bye.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Mike Stevenson. How are you, my friend?
Yes, I'm fine. I don't trust my voice and I don't trust my words today, so you just have to deal with that.
We can hear
Such is live.
yeah, I know. It's a very interesting topic, and it's one I've been thinking a lot about recently. Can I just talk about it at three different levels?
Absolutely.
First of all was the interpersonal. Now, I've been let down by people many times in my life, but I always go in from a position of trust, because I calculated fairly early on that if you embrace every new relationship from the basis of I have to test them out, I have to put them through this character assessment, I have to push the boundaries to see how far I can trust them, you live a life of absolute hell. I do understand women who've had terrible problems with trust. I do understand that. But my position is always trust. When it comes to organizational trust, I had an experience when I was 21, and it was a life-changing experience. I was working this building site in London, and I did the best leader I've ever experienced before or since. And he said to me, well, first of all, he made me feel a vital part of this, the palace we're building, going to rise up glistening into the London skyline. So that was amazing, because I felt I had a real purpose and a role. But one day he did say to me, Michael, here's some keys. And he gave me the keys and he said, I want you to open up the site in the morning because I'm going to the doctor. And my immediate reaction was, me? I was a lowly labourer. But I clutched the keys close to my chest all night. No one had ever said they trusted me, because that's what he said. I trust you. Now, that is the beginning of a trusted relationship with a leader. If a leader trusts you demonstrably, this is not a value system. You can't say trust people in a value statement. It is something that great leaders do. They do something fairly early on in the relationship to ensure that they know, that the people know that they trust them, and they give them something that requires a bit of responsibility. And that breaks that kind of, who do we trust here? That's so, so important. But once trust is broken, you can't get it back. It's like one of these wee things you get with your Apple phones, where you press it into the side to take out the SIM card. It's like that. They're very easy to lose. Very, very hard to repair or find again. So it's that critical. In organizations, we've got too many. Who are you working for as a leader? Because there was a case last year, P&O Ferries, I think it was 600 staff, when they arrived in dock on the east side of England, the CEO came on a live video feed and said, you have 6 minutes to get off the boat. From now on, you don't work for this company. But we've got people waiting in buses coming to take your place, right? Now, he got a huge bonus as CEO, These lives were shattered, given 6 minutes to get off the boat and lose their livelihood. But the shareholders were delighted because they got what they wanted. And they have no interest in the customer experience. They're only looking at the spreadsheet. So in those kind of companies now, it's very difficult to build trust, because who are you working for as a leader? Is it the shareholders? Well, in many cases, it is. Is it for your people, or is it for the customer? If it's for the customer, then your people are the people that build relationships with the customers. So the customer experience is about your people. So your people have to come with the absolute top grade priority in everything you do, because they're responsible for all the impacts of your business. So we've got a bit twisted now. In small companies, it's easy to see. You're a leader, you've got people, you want to get the best out of these people. Because if you get the best out of your people, the customer's going to get the best out of them. But
absolutely. Every human wants love and to be loved.
Yes.
And that doesn't need to be romantic. I mean, I love all of you guys. Doesn't mean that I want to marry anybody. It does mean that I love you and I accept you as a human being, and that's a lot about your teaching from the stage, and you do a lot of that. And I hate to cut this off, but I've got to cut it off. Mike, I got some other people playing. And thank you, my dear friend. I am so glad you were able to make it today.
Well,
even though you got some
yeah.
there
You're lucky you're cutting me off now, because I was going to go into political trust next. And you don't want to hear that.
No.
But
all right, my friend, take care.
Yeah, what does come up for me when I think about Mike is the power of words. And I think he really nailed that. The power of hearing, I trust you, is the most powerful experience. Thank you, my friend.
Okay, bye-bye. Now, my dear friend, a longtime friend, been friends with my wife and I for a very long time. She started out as a client. Now she's more family than anything else. And she's doing some amazing work in New York. And trust is a big part of her world. So I'm going to bring on my good friend, Dr. Bindu Babu. Hello, dear. I am so glad you could make it, because I know you're rocking all over the world here lately.
I wouldn't miss this in the world. I mean, Terry and Jenny, thank you for having me. I always love coming to your show. So it's great. And you're right. We're family. So anything.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear some takes on trust in your world. There's a lot of things going in and around your business and your presentations and stuff. And when I see it on social media, I just go, man, you can't help but trust this woman. And then the little light went on and said, she needs to be on our program. So please enlighten us.
I've been listening to a few of the speakers and the different takes of trust, right? And the different aspects of trust, whether it's romantic, whether it's political, whether it's work, whether it's and I loved what you said earlier, Terry. I trust you until you show otherwise. And that is powerful. That's very hard, especially for people who've been jaded or people who've been hurt before, right? To trust someone again, or to not categorize that person as someone who might have similar characteristics of someone they didn't trust or been burnt. So, I mean, there's a lot of mental health involved in healing yourself to have that ability to where you're like, I trust you until you show otherwise, giving my 100% to you till, because that makes you very vulnerable, right? And vulnerable takes a lot of strength. So I just wanted to make a really quick comment on that. That was so powerful. I sat there and I was like, whoa, blown, as always, Terry, as always with you. Always blow me off. But I think I'm going to just quickly mention a conversation I actually had this morning with a friend about trust and trusting amongst women, We are in this entity of women empowerment, women equity, and fighting for our rights and so forth. And there was a conversation where we're so hard on each other as women. If there was more on the table, we could have more opportunities and women wouldn't be as hard on each other. And I quickly said, I don't know if that's really the reason why, if there's not so much on the table. I think it's debunking the expectation that we have on ourselves as women. I think that is why we're all catty with each other, because being frank, otherwise, please tell me otherwise. The expectation generally in a traditional fashion from men is to be the bread bringer and so forth. But it's never about, are you wearing the right heels? Are you dressed properly? Do you have to look slim? Are you taking care of the kids? Is there food on the table while you're taking the kids, while you're running a business and paying the bills? If you can do all of that, you're perfect. If you don't, tonight I went out and bought fast food for my kids, you're judged. She put on a little extra pounds, you're judged. I don't think men have the stigma of that expectation like women do. And what's happened is, when we're not secure of ourselves, we automatically hurt our fellow women. Well, look at her. She thinks she's so great because she can handle it, or expectation of pulling someone else down. In a sense, well, are you a real mom? You're working, or you should be a stay-at-home mom, or you can do both. Well, maybe that's why the kids aren't as attended, or, these are different things that are just awful. Because overall, women or men, we do the best we can, and that's where we should trust in ourselves, trust in ourselves in whatever we do. That's the first one. When we are able to trust in ourselves for our goods and our bads, everything, then you won't cause that animosity amongst. There's plenty of water in that sea. There's plenty of things that we can all do together and support each other in. But I think the first thing is learning to trust ourselves and our abilities, even if we're not as good as everybody else. Fall in your niche and trust in your niche and bring that on the table. So I'm making it pretty short and sweet.
We have rang each other's bell today, and that if a single dad is getting it all done, he's a superstar. If he went to get the fast food tonight because he just didn't have time or whatever, it's, you poor man. We're with you, man. You just hang in there. That's it. But if it's a woman, it's like, what a lazy ass, and that's an atrocity. Okay?
Yeah, it's like aging, right? Women, even aging, we should be young. We should always look young as women. Men, it's character lines. It's it's wisdom. I mean, there's so much judgment. Like you said, it's okay if you picked up some KFC. But,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't have KFC anymore, or I would. Jenny?
There's so many ideals. Yes, so many ideals to let go of. And thank you, Bindu, for taking the time to build the trust amongst women. And to come back to where you started, it's so true that it starts with self-trust, because we can never control other people, right? So choosing to trust again comes down to, I choose to trust myself, that I will have my own back. If this happens, if that happens, A, B, Z, I will look out for me. So I just think you brought that together so beautifully. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a clear heart and just think about you and empower yourself, and everything else will fall in place.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Always wonderful to see you and talk to you, my dear.
I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, there's a state in the union over here that's got a lot of oranges in it, or so they think. But Mickey's world seems to be a little hotter on the deal. I have an international gentleman, an international speaker, and good friend and colleague that we've known each other, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. And I'm going to bring him in. John Chapelier. John, are you with us? There he is. Hi, John.
I am. Do these lines look like crow's feet, or do they look like age lines? I can't really tell, because I don't want to be reductive about men and women, but my goodness.
Right.
I've been listening to you guys for about 25 or 30 minutes. So it's been really kind of fun hearing different perspectives on trust. He's always funnier than he looks like he should be. You know, he looks like he should be a very serious college professor, and then when he starts talking, you realize you got a college professor / stand-up comic. It's really wonderful to hear him talk, and I like it. And I have his book, Visual Leadership, and it's a funny thing, because I just never really thought about the fact that I've always been a big storyteller, and the fact that people, when you say zebra, people think of the animal, not the word. So it's a matter of, are we talking in ways that create images for people that they can hang on to? And if we are, then we've got a much better chance of building the trust. But I'm assuming that's what we're talking about, since that's all you've been talking about with everybody else, unless it's something different for me. Is there something different for me?
We're talking trust.
Okay, I thought maybe with me it would be a lack of trust, so it's okay. I guess for me, the simplest definition for me is trust. Trust and love to me go very close together, and love is a big component of the Daily Six. But trust is existential, period, to me. It is in every relationship with anything that's alive. Even when you talk to plants, they grow and produce more blossoms and grow more healthy. Whether you're working with an animal or whether you're working with a human, the more that you can be open and the more that you can be honest, and most importantly, consistent, the more chance you have of building trust. Trust is the first thing that everyone in an organization, family, church, whatever you want, is the first thing that you need and the last thing that you get. And so there's always an uphill climb for that. There's always I don't know, this guy seems awfully good, but maybe he's too good to be true. Or maybe she's just telling me what I want to hear. Because the other thing that people forget, and I say this to clients all the time, is that don't forget, when you hire someone, you're hiring not just this person, but you're also hiring every boss this person has ever had in their entire employee career. So if 3 bosses ago, somebody said, trust me, and the trust got violated, it'll be like, all my bosses are liars. So you're back down here at the bottom. It can't be like, well, I've been trusted by all these other employees, so I'm sure he will be too. You may move up the hill a little faster because of that, but you're still going to start at the bottom and have to prove yourself on a daily basis. It's not, it just doesn't come. I mean, it's, when I was starting in a program once, the guy said, you'll figure this out after a couple of years. I really would like to learn this like by Tuesday. He said, no, it just takes a little time, and you're going to have to wait till you try it and it works or it doesn't work. And it's the same way with trust. You have to be uncomfortable, because most times for us to be vulnerable, especially in a leadership position, to be vulnerable makes you uncomfortable. Because new behavior, which most people, vulnerability is new behavior for most leaders. New behavior, regardless of what it is, if it's new behavior, it's uncomfortable. And our job as leaders, or as family members, or as whatever we want to be, is to practice that uncomfortable feeling until it becomes comfortable. Because if we're on the right track, it will eventually get there. You will look out and go, this is the right direction I've ever been on. Every success curve you see, it's funny because it also follows the Kubler-Ross steps of anger and depression, these kinds of things. It starts out, everything gets really good, and then all of a sudden everything sort of starts to tank, it gets to the bottom, and then all of a sudden it starts to grow back up again. And that's the way everything is. I'm taking a new foreign language. It's very exciting. Oh, I can't really figure it out. It's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Oh my God, I can't speak this at all. Oh wait, all of a sudden I'm becoming more and more fluent. it's this bottom piece. And this is where leadership screws up all the time. And this is where a lot of employees screw up all the time, is because we don't give it long enough to get to the point where what we are trying to achieve becomes achieved. You know, it's like, well, I tried everything I could with him. I can't do anything else. So
Yeah,
I didn't want
on
to be a
point.
5-minute lecture, but you know,
I love that. What I'm hearing is also trust the process, right?
yeah. If it's a trustworthy process, then trust the process. You know, if you look back and this has been documented time and time and time again, to work, then trust it. Especially if you've not done this before. Find a credible, you know, structure and hang your behavior on it and see how it works for you. Pay attention. Are people becoming more trusting? Are people becoming more open and more vulnerable with you? This is something that was spoken about earlier, and I've said it many times. If you want to be trusted, then start by trusting, because I can't start the process by trusting you. You have to start the process by trusting me, and the only way that is if I'm open enough and willing enough to be uncomfortable enough to trust you. And it can be a very comfortable process or a very vicious cycle, depending on how willing you are to go through the uncomfortable parts to get to the comfortable parts.
On point. On point. Any last thoughts, Jenny?
Oh, when I think of John, I think of just the choice, like the choices that we make to open up and ask the curious questions and invite people in, and that's a choice that we can make at any time, regardless of what's been, right? So no, I just always enjoy hearing you, John, and thank you for coming.
Thanks, Jenny. It's good to see you. And you're right. I mean, it's exactly right. The deeper your interest, the deeper the trust can grow.
Yeah.
If you're disinterested in someone, oh yeah, thanks a lot, thanks for stopping by. You know, if that's what your behavior is, but if you go back to the old 5 whys, you know, why? If the deeper that you dig in your relationship, the deeper the trust has a chance to grow, because you're putting it down and letting the roots sink in and hold on. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. Thank you, John. Thank you so much, my friend. I just love it when we talk, because there's just, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we're all on LinkedIn. Look us up. Check these are some fantastic authors. The Daily Six, Hunt Hint, is a great book. And please do so. So there's the plug for the team. John, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you, Jenny.
Good to see you, John.
Okay. Well, my next guest is kind of interesting. We met in a recent live that I was fortunate to co-host with my good friend and colleague, Lisa Gable. And she's got a pretty terrific daughter, too, who's a freshman at Clemson. And I even recorded her for tomorrow for my What Are You Doing show about today's trust. And I think you're really going to like what you hear. Now I'm going to bring on Mom and my new friend, and very interesting trust take that she has on it, April Yearby. April, thank you so much for coming, my friend.
Jenny, Ambassador, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to speaking with you.
No worries. Well, I'm going to throw it right at you. You've heard some trust today. Let's go for it.
I have so many thoughts in my head, and I come from this at a different angle. I'm in cyber, of course, and everything that we know about trust, the coin has been flipped on its head, right? I heard people speak about vulnerability. I've heard people talking about learning to be trusted, being that person to trust automatically out the chute. And when you come into the cybersecurity space, we're taught to not be so trusting. It's like that child that you have taught to be kind and to share. And then you throw them out there on the soccer field and tell them to go take the ball from the kids. And they're like, well, but they won't give it to me. And, you're like, just take it. But you taught me to share and to never be all of these things, right? So here we operate today in the world of cyber. And what does that mean? And what does that look like from a vulnerability perspective? So when I hear trust, it does require us to, I think we said it earlier, it requires us to be vulnerable. But being vulnerable in a cyberspace, it gets you in big trouble. So how do we teach resilience in cyber and not vulnerability? So how do we take what we've known and what we've been taught and flip that coin on the head and still be trustworthy people that now have to learn how to move with caution? How do we do that? That requires a retraining of the mind. That requires us to step back and really understand what era we're dealing with and what situation we're dealing with. I think someone said it very nicely earlier. There's different levels of trust and how you approach trust. I like what you said earlier, Ambassador, with regards to I give you that level of trust until you take it away. I have to say that's very profound just because it speaks to the volume of who you are as a person and the work that you've done on yourself. So when we are in business environments, I think it's going to be a little different than it is in a personal environment. However, who you are as a person, it doesn't matter whether you sit in a business setting or you are sitting at home with your family. It requires us to do some deep rooted unraveling of who we are. Because if we're an individual that has trust issues just in our day to day efforts, we have to figure out why that is. It's called the unmasking because our lack of trust or our ability to trust comes from the nurturing that we had from day one. So let's go back and think about our environments and how we ended up where we are today. If you had a situation, and you can go back as far as you can remember, and let's say that you fell off your bike, it was a trauma. You fell off your bike, you were hurt, you're crying, and your parent was there, grabbed you, coddled you, made you feel safe. Take that same scenario, and you had no one there. You had to work through that challenge on your own. Look at the dynamics that comes from that. And how do you understand and take that trauma in such a way that you build upon it where it's no longer negative? Because we become the people that we are through masking through our traumas and putting up that line of defense. So ultimately, are we being the best that we could be by purging those things that have not been successful for us, that are hindrances in our world? And learning to be something that we are not comfortable with being, which requires us to pull down that mask and relearning who we are as a person. So I leave people with this question to challenge themselves for those that have been hurt in some form or fashion. All of us have to some degree. But I ask the question, does true forgiveness require us to trust again?
Oh,
Good
so
one.
on point. I so enjoy you, April. I so enjoy you. Jenny, you started to say something.
Yeah, what comes to me is, as a behavioral scientist, just you wrap it all together so beautifully. Like there are two different sides to our brain, so to speak. And one is accessing the joy and the excitement and like diving into the new. And one is about fear or sadness or whatever's there, like to keep us safe. And you're speaking of like, there's a reason why we have both of those functions, but it's about healing and and finding the balance in between them, and how it's all here to serve us. And you said it in different words, but I just took everything in, and it was very profound, April. Thank you for sharing. and also
Yeah,
connecting it to
right
trauma,
on.
which is very close to my heart.
Oh yes. So I say, first of all, you nailed it. Oh yeah. This is the thing. I'm that person. I like to reverse engineer things, and I like to get down to the why. And I think as we look within ourselves, when we talk about trust, we often look at trust from the other party to us versus us to them. And what I encourage us to do is to really identify with who we are as individuals. Right, wrong, or indifferent. This isn't about who's right, who's wrong. This is really identifying with who you are as a person. And then when you know who you are, then you can identify your ability to be able to trust. And if you're not able to trust, we then have to go a little bit deeper and do some fact finding. Then, once we do that fact finding, we have to take it a step further and we have to work on those challenges. I like to call them weeds that sit under the line of defense. They're weeds that can become healthy. We can't go back and change the trauma that took place, but we can effectively heal from those traumas and now make those weeds into healthy roots and then move in a direction where we're able to be effective not only in our personal lives but in our business lives. Because if I have a problem with trusting just as a whole, when I walk into any work setting, any professional setting, I'm going to struggle because of my underlying issues that have never been dealt with. So I say we have to go back and deal with self to get the end result that we're looking for in trust.
There's a ever repeating ring here, ladies and gentlemen, listening in. Thank you for doing so. And that's all about inner trust, you know, and having that presence. You know, I often say presence is the point where manifestation becomes action. Love myself, be present. I'm okay. Now, everything around me will be okay in one way or another. And what it is that I'm searching for will really come to light, manifest itself. April, thank you so much, my new friend. We just, even though we just met recently, love talking to you and your perspective. And it's just terrific to have you with us. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't figured it out yet, these are not just friends and colleagues we want to talk to. These are people from different industries and different geographical areas of the world, and their perspective with their work out here in the world and how keen it is to the word trust. Again, April, thank you so much for being with us, my dear friend. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to keep on the East Coast for a little bit longer. Another new friend who I met with April just a while back, who another one of those people that you just connect with just right away. And her work internationally in and around the mobile business and different things she's doing is quite unique in the regard that there's a lot of trust involved in that. I'm going to bring her on right now, Eugenia Jordan. Welcome, my good friend. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Delight to have you. Truly, it is. And you were one of the first person I thought about because you are in fact in a very unique industry in the world that really trust is a massive thing. Like April and cyber, you know, they're two different areas right now that people kind of ignore until there's a problem, right? So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you talk about what your take is on trust. Go ahead, Eugenia.
So I've been listening backstage, and we talked about personal, professional trust. In business, it's super important because there's different techniques, zero trust and whatnot. So, but what I also heard when I was backstage is it's so hard to pinpoint what actual trust is. We heard self-trust, I heard belonging. So I want to bring up something that Brené Brown created in Dare to Lead, her book. And she created the framework that resonated really well with me when I was trying to explain what trust is to myself, my mentees, my customers. She calls it braving, and it's an acronym. B stands for boundaries. And the boundaries not just with the other people, but the boundaries with ourselves. Because if we break the boundaries, we cannot blame the other person. We can only blame ourselves. So that's B. R is reliability. How many times we get upset with the friend because they say, oh, I'm going to be over in an hour, and it ends up being 2 hours, or they just don't show up. Reliability in Braving Framework for Trust means do what you said you would do. Accountability. How many times we see leaders not taking responsibility for what they do, and that breaks our trust. They don't own the mistakes, they pass the blame. So A stands for accountability. V, that's dear to my heart, because I'm a very private person. I'm an introvert. So if I tell you something, I don't want the whole world to know. I want it to stay in the vault. And this is what V stands for. I, in the Braving Framework, stands for integrity. What integrity means to me, it's doing what's right. I always choose doing what's right over comfort. Integrity is one of my values. N stands for non-judgmental. Don't judge others. Don't judge yourself. I have a joke, actually, when people try to judge me. I say, if you plan on judging me for my lipstick, for my hair, for the way I speak, then you better give me an award. If you are judging without an award, then just stop. And the last one, it resonated. It's generosity. So generosity, what it means is we treat everyone fairly. We don't assume. We come to interact with other people because we want to enjoy them and what they have to offer to us and the world. So why this framework is important to me? Because if I feel that someone is breaking my trust, I can figure out, is it B, boundary? Is it R, reliability? Is it A, accountability? Is it vault, generosity, integrity? And once I pinpoint that, I can talk to that person and I can say, look, here's the situation. You want accountable, you pass the blame, and that's breaking my trust. Are you willing to work on it so we can repair that trust?
Delightful. Jenny?
Yeah, I'm just smiling because I know, Eugenia, that you're a builder and you build companies and cultures, and you know, knowing that I would see you, I wanted to ask you, like, how do you build trust? And you just served it to me. So thank you so much. I thought that was really brilliant.
Thank you for having me.
Good stuff, you know. And you know, you work on a lot of marketing angles too. And you know, as important, I think, in these last pre-COVID till now, truth in advertising and marketing in a justifiable way is very important because the disinformation through the COVID crisis in different areas of the world, including right here in the U.S., really dropped the trust for a lot of people, a lot of governments. People are having real issues with that. And you're one of those people out there in the weeds, mowing them down and really setting that trust is a big deal. And it's just not how fancy you say something or how clever you are. It's, do you believe in what you're doing, and does it really serve the customer you're trying to attract? And I just thank you so much, my new friend, for hopping on here. As a matter of fact, you were in Davos too, weren't you?
No. I was at Mobile World Congress. So
Mobile
yes,
Congress. Yeah, that's right.
Equality
Just
Lounge. Yeah, that's what I
quality.
appreciate.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, thank you, my friend, for hopping on. I know you've been here for a while in the green room, and I appreciate you and your lovely kindness for being here and speaking truth to us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, bye for now. Well, that's it for the East. Let's hit the central United States for a little Texas talk. And my friend and colleague, kind of an interesting colleague, Antoinette Rose, speaker agent. There are a few people here today that are actual speakers. Hint, hint, people. This is my speaking agent, and trust between the agent and the customer is massive. And I'm so glad that you agreed to come on today and talk to us about trust. So please, Antoinette, give us your drop in on that.
Thank you, Ambassador. And thank you, Jenny, also for putting together such an important topic right now, especially. You alluded to that, Ambassador, that we're in the crisis of trust now more than ever. So perfect timing, right? And you're exactly right. There has to be a lot of trust between not only you and your colleagues, and in my instance, it would be me and the speakers that I represent, but also between the speakers and their audiences. And whether you call yourself a speaker or not, we are always selling some sort of a concept or a service, right, in our businesses and just even in our lives. We could be a doctor and you're selling a treatment, whether you realize it or not. And there has to be trust in every level of what you do. So there's the obvious, right? Are you honest? Are you on time? Because that shows respect for somebody else. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. To be late is unacceptable. And it's not, has nothing to do with time management, has everything to do with respect. And that really builds that level of trust. I'll go a step further and end on time, right? If you are even a doctor and somebody is expecting a 2:00 appointment, they probably have some things stacked up after that. So try to get them in on time, try to help them get out on time, whatever you're doing. So that's a level of trust. Those are kind of the obvious things. Some things that might not be quite as obvious, but are just as important, is the way that you use your body and the way that you use your voice. We all know that if somebody's a fast talker, that trust level just goes down. They're not fully giving you their words. They're not fully giving you just the respect of time, right? They're just kind of rushing through whatever that they're trying to convey to you. So the way that you utilize your voice, speak confident, stand up straight, look at people in the eye, all of that is all part of how, whether or not somebody is going to trust you. If you fidget too much, if you rock, that's a self-confident, self-comforting thing. I'm thinking more about myself than I'm thinking about you because I'm self-comforting. That takes away trust. All those very little things that we may just kind of gloss over all make a massive difference when it comes to trust. I've got lots more, but I'm gonna let you guys speak for a moment.
Jenny.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. I love the practical tips, really. Something that comes to me is muscle memory. That actually, when I do these things that you're saying, I lower my voice, I speak a little slower, I open up my body language. Speakers who are very comfortable on stage, they will show the palm of their hands, right? And it actually makes my own mind relax. It actually makes me trust myself even more. So those tips are so good for the audience, but also for me as the speaker. Thank you. How about you, Terry?
Yeah, what resonates with me is I wait a long time. I'm very busy. I've got a lot of things going, and I want to hear what somebody has to say. They start 4 or 5 minutes late, with not a lot of apology or explanation. They speed up their pace of a presentation, and then they don't end on time. That's a total disrespect for me as the person in the audience. Okay. I blocked out psychologically, physically, and otherwise start time, end time. And I am a real stickler. Okay. I'm kind of okay with starting late. Things happen. That's life. I very seldom go over, very seldom. And that's only seconds because I respect the people I'm talking to. They deserve to be respected. Like I mentioned earlier, we all want to be loved and love. That's
Yeah.
the principles of most beings, animals, and everyone. So that's all very important. I'm going to throw this back to Antoinette. You got some other thoughts there?
I do. I'd first like to touch on what Jenny said. You're so right, Jenny. And one thing that I'd love to encourage, many of us are now presenting or meeting with clients through the screen, just like this, right? And it's almost as if we're sitting on our hands. Like we never show our hands. It's very important. Even if you're not a hand talker, I'm very Italian, I'm a hand talker, but even if you're not, become one, because you are so right. With that, they think you're hiding something. It's just this unspoken thing, right? Is why are their hands behind their back? Why are their hands not showing? So just every now and then, don't overdo it, but just every now and then utilize your hands. One more thing with regards to trust, if you are presenting through a screen like this, through the internet, you almost have to be more you, because that screen does damper you a little bit. So somebody standing in the room with you will probably be like, gosh, you're a little over the top. But you guys are just seeing me as normal, as relatable. My voice is you're getting the inflections in my voice, all of those kinds of things. You're getting my passion, my genuine passion. And people have to connect to your passion in order for them to really trust you. One last thing that I'll share is know who you're speaking to and make it more about them than it is about you. Sometimes that takes a little bit of homework. If you're going to be going into a business meeting, try to get some foreknowledge of who's going to be in that boardroom or who's going to be in that room. If you're going to go on a stage, ask the host if you can maybe pull a few of maybe do a quick interview for some of the speakers. Even if you just say one name out loud and say a little joke about them, or just say something personal about them, the whole room is like, wow, this speaker took the time to even know who they're talking with. And all of a sudden that body language opens up and they receive you a whole lot more. So when you're speaking just in a conversation, or if you're speaking in a formal professional setting, always make it more about those who you're speaking to, then you make it about yourself. Those are just some very, very key and important things that we tend to gloss over, and they really mean everything.
Thank you,
Lovely.
Antoinette. We can really tell how committed you are to the success of your clients, and you are teaching them to trust in their dream. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, lovely, lovely, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Ciao, ciao for now. Have an amazing time.
Okay, bye. Well, last, but I guarantee you not least, is a gentleman that I was recommended to meet because who he is and what he does. Back a number of years ago when I had a new book come out, Profiling for Profit, What Crossed Arms Don't Tell You. And through that initial conversation, he invited me to do a training for his international association, which we're going to introduce here in just a moment. And since then, we've become very good friends. And I'm just super glad that he's traveling like crazy. He was all over the East for a month earlier this year. And I'm going to bring him up to the stage now. My friend Willis Turner, Executive Director of Sales and Marketing Executives International. It's a big deal, and it has to do with a A lot of trust, my friend. Thanks for coming.
Well, it's been wonderful being backstage, Terry and Jenny, and listening to the different thought leaders about this topic. So many different aspects to trust. I've really enjoyed being here with you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And you mentioned traveling, and so I'm going to use an analogy about trust, and it's related to my travels. But as I do that, I'm going to share something with you. This, you might have seen these before, Terry. It's a Ben Franklin. You know, I'm a Canadian, but I also use and respect the US currency. And one of those things that about the US currency is it can be used almost anywhere in the world. It's not the official currency of other countries, but it's recognized and trusted in other countries. And why is that? And it is because people have had a good experience with it in the past. So on a recent trip to Vietnam, I was in Ho Chi Minh City staying at a hotel, and I had one of these $100 US bills, and I wanted to exchange it for local currency. So I went to the concierge desk in the hotel and I said, would you be able to exchange this for me? And they said, sure. And I handed it over and they looked at it and they frowned. And then they handed it back and it said, so sorry. And I said, well, what's wrong with it? And they said, it's an older bill. It doesn't have the counterfeit measures of security measures embedded. And so we don't trust it. And so it got me thinking about trust as it relates to currency. And trust is a currency, isn't it? So,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you think about trust, I'm just using this analogy of the currency. It has some security features built in. One of them, and it's the oldest probably security feature built into the currency, is the serial number. Every bill has a serial number and it's unique. And in our profession, in selling, which is one of my favorite passionate topics, is professional sales, we have to be authentic. We have to be ourselves and we have to be unique. And if we're trying to be like somebody else, it's like using a serial number that's not validated.
Oh.
It is so powerful for us to be authentic. So that's one lesson from the bill. Another lesson is the microprinting. So microprinting is there on the bill, but you can't necessarily see it unless you look at it under a microscope. And so trust is like that too. Sometimes we can appear to be trustworthy on the surface, but when you dig deep, are we trustworthy? Are we trustworthy in all of our relationships? Are we trustworthy in every aspect of our life? Is our 360 view trustworthy? And some of the security features, like on this particular bill, there is a threaded tape that is built into the bill. And there is also something else that's really cool, and you can probably see right down here on the bill, there is, it looks like an inkwell, but if you tip it on its side, you can see that it's the Liberty Bell. And so that is kind of interesting. And when people look at us, they can see a certain thing. But when they look at us from a different angle, they might see something else. So are we being authentic with people in our relationships? You know, Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey, mentioned this thing about building a trust bank. You can build a trust bank. It's like making deposits of money into the trust bank, and you can keep adding to it. But when you break trust, you do a withdrawal, and that cannot be easily replenished. So we have, when people look at us from a different angle in our life, maybe when we are with someone, I'm with you and I'm saying, wow, I really like Terry and I really like Jenny. They're great people. I can trust them. But then when I'm talking to somebody else and you're not here and I mention you in a disparaging way, or I even comment on something about you that's negative, I've broken trust, because that person now thinks, well, what are they going to say about me when I'm not here? That's a different angle of how we look at people. And we can treat customers in the same way. I always believe that we can have a customer for life in selling. Salespeople are going to move from job to job. We don't stay in the same job and get the gold watch after 50 years anymore. We're going to be moving about. But we can have a customer for life, and that customer can follow us if we don't break our trust with them. We can stay true to them, and they will trust us in whatever situation they meet us at again in a future point. So those are some different things about the currency. There's another one, and that is there's a texture to currency. And if you don't have, if you have poor vision, people have been taught that have restricted vision or no vision, that they can feel the currency to tell if it's authentic. And that's something I think too, in how we treat people and how they feel about us. That is really builds trust, or it takes away from it. So it's when they bump up against us, when we meet some turbulence in life, how do we treat those around us? Are we someone that people can reach out to and hang on to, and feel like, yes, I can trust them, they're solid. So oftentimes in selling, we are dealing with people who are in really tough situations. They have very serious problems to solve. Can they feel us? Can they touch us? Can they trust us? Are we going to be a solid bulwark for them to trust in this situation going forward, helping them find a solution to their problem? So there are just a few analogies about currency and how we build trust and use currency, the currency of trust in our lives.
Thank you. And we love fantastic. The visual.
Yeah,
and
that's fantastic.
I think the summary for me is trusting ourselves and being authentic actually helps the customer trust us. Again, back to self-trust.
Yes,
and the authenticity.
Yeah, self-trust was mentioned before, and I believe it's very, very critical.
Absolutely, absolutely. Willis Turner, my good friend, lovely to see you. Your analogies are always so on point. One of these days, maybe we'll hit the same city and get a chance to have a spot of tea or a good cup of coffee and maybe a nice glass of wine. Who knows?
Yeah.
And it would be great to meet you, because you're one of a lot of people around the world that are dear friends, and we've never met in real life. So it's kind of interesting. It's like Jenny and I, we're dear friends, and we've never met either. My wife was lucky enough to spend some time with her last year. I'm still jealous. And so it's been a delight. And thank you again, Willis, for hopping in here with us. It was an absolute delight.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, man. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is some top voices in leadership on trust. Jenny, beautiful. Wow, what a lineup.
So much to take in, and so many angles, and so much clarity from these thought leaders. Thank you, Terry, for co-hosting.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this, make sure you take some notes on those comments. They were amazing. And we're still getting comments that people love us. Bringing it back to self, that's a big deal. Yeah, we're going to throw that up there. My partner in business and life. That was good, top notch. Well done, everyone. You're right. Absolutely fantastic. And Jenny, we're going to do this again. We've got a thing going here. There's some synergy here, and I love your work. I am a big fan of your behavioral science research and the things that you do. Is just you're doing good stuff out there, ladies and gentlemen. You want to look her up on LinkedIn. She's worth a read, if nothing else, because there's three types of prospects in the world, and I teach this. The person you're thinking about, one-on-one. There's also two others that reflect that person, and one of them is the person they work for or the person that works over them. who knows them, who can know you and hear about what you're doing, and they reflect it to your prospect and say, you ought to talk to these people. They're just kind of interesting. And there's one more that's just as powerful in getting the message out, and that is the person you play squash with on the weekends, or tennis, or golf, or whatever, because you're on a different level of trust and respect. Like, Terry, you've been crying about this ABC for a long time. Well, I heard this guy talk the other day, this Willis Turner guy. You got to look him up. You need to talk to him. And Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, you know what? I think I will. It's powerful. So we never know who's going to receive our message, and it's not important. It's just that I believe the person who is looking for that message will find it if we speak it from the heart and in a trustful and truthful way. Jenny, any final thoughts for today?
Oh, so many thoughts. Just staying real and genuine with one another this way makes it easier for our people to find us. And just coming back to what I mentioned, when we feel the trust towards one another and we feel safe, we access that part of our brain that is not always activated, but is about joy, interest, being proud of who we are and what we are accomplishing. That's the part of our brain that brings us closer together and makes us grow and become creative. So trust really is the foundation. It is everything for us to move forward. So I'm just so happy to be here with you, Terry. Thank you for everything.
And I'm happy to be with you, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening in today, whether it was live or you picked up the recording. Reach out to anyone in this list. These are fantastic people from all over the world doing amazing things, and they're pretty trustworthy. That's why we picked them out. Bye for now. This is Ambassador Terry, along with my co-host and friend, Jenny Landgren. And thanks for stopping.
Thank you.